You know, there's something I hear from a lot of people over 60 in my clinic, and they usually say it very quietly, almost like a whisper. Doctor, I live a normal life. I sleep enough. But why do I wake up feeling so foggy? They're not completely forgetting everything. It's just that familiar names take longer to come back. A thought flashes in, then slips away. And sometimes they walk into the kitchen, pause for a second, and think, why did I come in here again? What concerns me isn't the forgetting itself, it's the worry behind it. Many people start asking themselves, is my brain starting to decline? Is this an irreversible sign of aging? If you've ever had those thoughts, I want you to take a deep breath, because the scientific truth is far less frightening than you think. My name is Dr. David Warren. I'm 60 years old, and for over 30 years, I've worked with thousands of older adults, people who are still sharp, still full of life, but who've started to worry because their memory doesn't seem to cooperate like it used to. And here's what I want you to know right from the start of this video. Many memory problems don't begin during the day. They begin while you're asleep. Sounds strange, doesn't it? We tend to think of sleep as a time when the brain shuts down. But in reality, nighttime is the brain's most important work shift. While your eyes are closed, your brain is busy, organizing the memories from your day, strengthening what matters, and clearing out weak connections it no longer needs. Here's the problem. If the brain doesn't have enough raw materials, it still has to work. But it works in power-saving mode, and when it has to conserve energy, it has to cut corners. That's why you go to bed feeling fine, but wake up less sharp than the day before. Not because you aged overnight, but because your brain didn't have enough nutrients to complete its nighttime repair work. In today's video, I want to talk to you about a very specific group of nutrients, ones that are often overlooked after age 60, yet play a critical role in memory, focus, and mental clarity, especially when they're consumed in the evening. This isn't about medication. It's not about anything exotic. It's about familiar foods that, when used the right way, can help your brain do its job while you sleep. If you're over 60 and you want to wake up in the morning feeling lighter, clearer, and more confident, stay with me. We'll take this step by step, slowly, scientifically, and realistically. Point 1. Your brain needs building materials at night, not just rest. There's a very common misunderstanding I hear from patients over 60. Doctor, I sleep 7 or 8 hours. Why is my memory still getting worse? Getting enough sleep is necessary, but it's not enough. When you sleep, your brain doesn't shut off. It switches into repair mode. Think of your brain like a large library. During the day, it takes in new information. At night, it sorts, stores, and reinforces what's important. That process requires specific biological materials to strengthen neural connections, maintain memory-related neurotransmitters, keep brain cell membranes flexible and responsive. If those materials are missing, the brain still works, but only at a minimal level. The result, memories aren't fully packaged. Memory signals leak. You wake up feeling foggy, slow, and unfocused. And here's the tricky part. This kind of deficiency doesn't cause pain or obvious warning signs, so most people never realize it's happening. When the brain does receive enough support at night, patients tell me very simple things like, I wake up clearer, not confused anymore. Names come to me faster. My head feels lighter, less tense. This isn't about having a super memory. It's about your brain working the way it was designed to work. And that becomes especially important after 60, when cell repair slows down, nutrient reserves decrease, and the brain becomes more sensitive to deficiencies. The key factor here is timing. Your brain needs its building materials. Before you go to sleep, not the next morning. Ideally about 90 minutes to 2 hours before bedtime. That timing allows digestion to finish, nutrients to circulate in the blood, and the brain to use them as soon as deep sleep begins. You don't need large portions. You don't need complicated meals. What matters is the right nutrients at the right time. I often tell my older patients something very simple. Your brain isn't broken. It's just been working with limited resources. Once you start seeing sleep not just as rest, but as your brain's overnight repair shift, you naturally begin to change how you eat dinner and care for yourself in a gentler, smarter way. And in the next section, I'll talk about one specific nutrient your brain relies on to keep memories from falling apart overnight and help lock information in while you sleep. Point 2, the quiet nutrient that decides whether memories stick or slip away or during sleep. There's a question I hear again and again in my office. Doctor, why do I remember things during the day, but forget them the next morning? The answer lies in a small but critical step in the memory process. When you learn something new during the day, a name, a conversation, a task, your brain doesn't store it right away. It's only temporary. At night, during deep sleep, the brain then transfers memories from short-term to long-term storage, strengthens the related neural connections, filters out unnecessary noise. To do that, the brain depends on a very important neurotransmitter, one that allows brain cells to communicate clearly. When that substance is lacking, memory signals weaken, connections aren't reinforced, memories slip away by morning. And here's the key issue. After age 60, the body becomes much less efficient at producing this substance on its own. When the brain has what it needs to complete this memory locking step at night, people often notice faster recall, less mental searching, less morning disorientation, more stable memory overall. As many patients tell me, it's not that I remember more, I just remember more solidly. And that's the real goal. I don't recommend cramming information or trying to train your brain at night. What the brain needs is the right fuel, not pressure. The right approach is to pay attention to your evening meal. Include foods that support neurotransmitters. Eat moderately without feeling heavy. The best timing remains about 90 minutes to 2 hours before sleep. This allows the brain to have its materials ready and the memory consolidation process to happen smoothly. As I often tell my older patients, memory doesn't fade because you're old. It weakens because the brain no longer has what it needs to hold on to it. When you understand that memory needs nourishment, not force, everything becomes much gentler and much more hopeful. And in the next section, I'll talk about a very specific group of foods, often overlooked or misunderstood, that form the foundation of nighttime memory repair. Point 3, choline-rich foods, the foundation your brain needs to rebuild memory while you sleep. There's something I want to say very clearly to you. Your brain cannot repair memory through willpower. It can only repair when it has the right building materials. And one of the most important materials your brain needs at night is choline. Choline is the precursor your body uses to make acetylcholine, the neurotransmitter responsible for memory, learning, and focus. Phospholipids, the structural components of brain cell membranes. Think of it this way. Acetylcholine is the signal. The cell membrane is the wiring. For the signal to travel clearly, both must be strong. After age 60, choline absorption decreases, the liver becomes less efficient at processing it, and the brain's demand actually increases because repair happens more slowly. The result? The brain works with limited materials. Nighttime memory consolidation becomes incomplete. When patients begin getting enough choline from food, they don't say anything dramatic. They say simple things like, I wake up clearer. My thoughts feel less scattered. I forget the little things less often. That matters because memory doesn't collapse overnight. It wears down gradually. And when you slow that wear, you preserve something incredibly valuable. What I always emphasize is this. You don't need to eat large amounts. You don't need to eat the same thing every day. And you don't need to turn dinner into a prescription. The right approach is to choose natural foods rich in choline, eat them in the evening, pair them with a light, easy-to-digest meal. A few times a week is enough if you're consistent. I often tell my patients, don't wait until memory loss feels serious before you start caring for it. Memory is like a muscle. It doesn't disappear in one day, but it won't get stronger if you keep it underfed. In the next section, I'll talk about a very familiar food, one many older adults avoid because of outdated advice. Yet it's one of the most valuable natural sources of choline for the aging brain at night. Point 4, Egg yolks, misunderstood food that quietly nourishes memory overnight. Over the years, I've noticed a clear pattern in older patients. The more they worry about their health, the more essential foods they remove from their diet. And egg yolks are one of the clearest examples. Egg yolks aren't just fat or cholesterol, as many people believe. They're actually one of the most absorbable natural sources of choline. Inside the yolk, you'll find highly bioavailable choline, phospholipids that help build brain cell membranes, healthy fats that support stable brain function at night. While you sleep, your brain needs materials to rebuild synapses, neurotransmitters to lock in memories, flexible cell membranes to transmit signals. Egg yolks provide all three at once. And here's the key point. The brain uses these nutrients most intensely at night. When older adults reintroduce egg yolks in a balanced way, they often notice less morning grogginess, more organized daily memory, fewer moments of mental disconnect. It's not that memory suddenly skyrockets, it's that stability improves. And for memory, stability matters far more than speed. I always emphasize three things. You don't need a lot. One yolk per serving is enough. Avoid high heat frying. Excessive heat degrades nutrients. Best timing, a light dinner, about 90 minutes to 2 hours before bed. Soft-boiled or gently cooked is ideal. If you were once told to avoid egg yolks, remember this. Nutritional science has changed a great deal over the past 20, 30 years. As I often tell my patients, the issue isn't whether you eat eggs. It's how much you eat, when you eat them, and what you eat them with. An aging body doesn't need extremes. It needs balance and understanding. Next, I'll talk about another source of choline. Not from land, but from the sea, one that's especially supportive for nighttime brain repair in people who feel their memory slowly wearing down over the years. Point 5. Foods from the sea, supporting the structure of memory during nighttime brain repair. When people think about memory, they usually focus on neural signals. But there's another factor that's just as important, the physical structure of the brain. I often tell patients, your brain doesn't just need to communicate well, it also needs a strong house for those conversations to happen in. Inside the brain, nerve cells are surrounded by cell membranes, protective layers that allow signals to travel quickly and accurately. As we age, these structures thin, signal transmission slows, memory becomes fragmented and less fluid. Certain nutrients found in seafood, especially those rich in natural choline, structural brain fats, B vitamins act as repair materials for this structural framework of memory. At night, when the brain enters deep recovery mode, these nutrients are used very efficiently. Patients who include seafood appropriately in their evening meals often report more continuous memory, fewer pauses or breaks while speaking, clearer thinking in the morning. What they feel isn't a faster brain, but a brain that's less tired and less chaotic. And for people over 60, that's a meaningful improvement. I don't recommend eating large portions or eating it every day. The right approach is to choose small portions, prepare it gently, eat it earlier in the evening. A few times a week is enough to support brain structure, allow steady, ongoing repair. Most important of all, consistency, moderation, and digestion-friendly choices. I always remind older patients, don't just think about stimulating memory, think about protecting and repairing its foundation. The brain is like an aging house. If you only focus on making the lights brighter without strengthening the walls and foundation, that brightness won't last. In the final section of the main content, I'll talk about a gentler option, ideal for vegetarians or those with sensitive digestion, that still supports the brain very well at night. Point 6. A gentle option for vegetarians or sensitive digestion, supporting memory without stressing the body. Not everyone over 60 can eat eggs regularly or tolerate seafood well. And I always tell my patients, caring for memory should never become a burden on digestion. The good news is this. Your brain doesn't care what diet you follow. It only cares whether it's getting enough building materials. Beyond animal sources, there are plant-based compounds that provide choline bound to phospholipids, support brain cell membrane structure, help maintain stable signal transmission. What makes these especially helpful is that they are easy to digest, gentle on the stomach, suitable for evening use. During sleep, the brain needs flexible cell membranes, stable connections, a low inflammation, low stress environment. These plant-based nutrients support exactly that foundation. Among long-term vegetarians or those with sensitive stomachs, I often hear, I wake up mentally clearer. I don't feel that heavy pressure in my head anymore. That lingering mental fatigue is gone. And most importantly, they don't have to sacrifice digestion to support memory. The principles I recommend are simple. Use small amounts. Pair with a light evening meal. Avoid taking it too close to bedtime. The ideal timing is about 60-90 minutes before sleep. You don't need it every day. Just a few times a week is enough to support brain recovery, avoid stressing an aging body. As I always remind patients, the best way to care for memory is the way you can maintain long-term. Everyone is different, but the brain shares one thing in common. It responds extremely well to care that is gentle, consistent, and well-timed. Closing message. Your memory hasn't left you. It's waiting to be cared for properly. Before we finish, I want you to remember one very important thing. Forgetting from time to time does not mean you're losing yourself. Many people over 60 come to me with the same concern. My memory just isn't what it used to be. But when we look together at how they sleep, how they eat dinner, and how they nourish their brain at night, they often realize something deeply reassuring. The brain hasn't given up. It simply hasn't had the conditions it needs to do its job well. When you understand that, nighttime is when the brain repairs. Memory needs nourishment, not force. And small, timely choices can create big change. You stop seeing forgetfulness as a sentence and start seeing it as a gentle reminder that it's time to care for yourself more wisely. You don't need extreme dieting, complicated medications, or flashy, quick fix promises. You only need to listen to your body, respect your brain's natural rhythm, and nourish memory consistently and gently. I've seen many patients improve not because they did something dramatic, but because they started in the right place. If you found this video helpful, consider subscribing so we can continue this journey together. Not just talking about memory, but about living with clarity, confidence, and vitality at any age. And if you'd like, leave a comment below. What part of today's video made you think the most? I read every single one. I'll leave you with something I often say to patients as they leave my office. You're not slowing down. You're just learning how to move at the right rhythm. Disclaimer. This video is for educational purposes only and does not replace personalized medical advice. If you have existing medical conditions or are taking medication, please consult your healthcare provider before making dietary changes.